like a chicken with his head cut off. All right, the Western Conference Finals is here, and we have the 5 or 4 seeded Dallas Mavericks. I truly forget which one they are versus the 3 seeded Minnesota Timberwolves, and this is the matchup for the people. You know, while I did pick the entire Western Conference side of the conference semifinals wrong, I mean, I picked the Thunder in 7 over the Mavericks, and I picked the Nuggets in 7 over the Timberwolves. So I'm not feeling the best, but I am really happy with the matchup we got. I feel like personally with the Western Conference, I would have been happy with whatever matchup we got in the Western Conference Finals because all these teams are really good. Because let's keep it a buck. The Western Conference side is the gauntlet. The West is by far the hardest conference in basketball. Well, is much tougher than the East. And in my opinion, this is the NBA Finals. I always felt like whoever won the West was going to win the Finals. Like I said before, the West is a gauntlet. So to win the West, to come out of the West, you have to be the best team in basketball. And I feel like we're getting a matchup between two of the best teams in basketball. And I think the title of this video is going to be The Future Is Now, because while everybody accepts Anthony Edwards is looking like he's going to be the future face of the league and one of the best players of this newer generation, I think a lot of people forget how young Luka Doncic is. I mean, since he's been dominating since he's gotten to the league, we kind of forget that he is still one of those guys that is like around 25 years old and is going to be around for another 5 to 10 years playing really, really good basketball. And it's crazy that a guy like Luka has voter fatigue for an award he's never won, because even though Jokic did drop in the conference semifinals, which is not really a big indictment towards him in my opinion, I think that's more of a credit to how good the Minnesota Timberwolves are. I did believe Luka should have won the MVP award. The way he's been playing the second half of the season, and even the way he's been playing in the playoffs, even though his performances have been up and down, he's played like one of the top 3 players in the world right now. And they had their biggest test yet. I really like this matchup between the Dallas Mavericks and the Minnesota Timberwolves, mainly looking at this Mavericks offense versus this Timberwolves defense. Luka and Kyrie and company versus Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Rudy Gobert, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and even you can throw in Cat because he's been playing really good defense this entire playoff run. And really, Cat has been like a very underrated player this playoff run, given that, yes, his scoring has been up and down. It's been really game to game, but his defense has been there. When Cat is not doing bull-ass fouls, he's been playing immaculate defense for Karl-Anthony Towns. Like, he was the best defender the Timberwolves had against Nikola Jokic, and that's no slight to Rudy Gobert because that's 2 different body types. Gobert's a little light in the while Karl-Anthony Towns is much bigger and can take Jokic pounding him again and again. And really, Gobert plays much better in the help role. And I think a lot of people have been very ignorant basketball-wise when it comes to talking about Rudy Gobert and saying that he's overrated, saying that he's trash, and saying that he can't be on the floor. I mean, I feel like that's people that just don't understand basketball or are simply not trying to understand basketball just to shit on Rudy Gobert. But Karl-Anthony Towns has been amazing defensively. And while I think that's the main matchup of this game, like how the Timberwolves will defend the Dallas Mavericks, given Kyrie and Luka are exceptional. They are playoff risers, and you're going to have to contain them if you want to win the series. But it's also the other pieces. The one thing about the Dallas Mavericks is that, especially this playoff run, is that it's been a little bit of everything with them. There were a lot of people that picked the Dallas Mavericks to make a nice playoff run and make it to the conference finals, and it was mainly because a lot of people believed their top 2 would show why they're the best backcourt in the league. And while, yes, they have been playing really good basketball, Kyrie has been playing the best basketball of his career, affecting the games in more ways than just scoring with his playmaking and defense. And Luka, while Luka is banged up, he has been a plus defender at times, and he has just been Luka Doncic, taking over games in his type of way with the playmaking, with the rebounding, with the scoring. But it's been the others. It's been PJ Washington playing some of the best ball of his career. It's been Derrick Jones Jr. turning into a really, really comparable role player and a guy that this offseason will be getting paid a good amount of money to play basketball for whatever team wants him. Hopefully it's the Mavericks. I think he really found a home there in a place where he found his role as a 3 and D wing who is insanely athletic. I mean, Derrick Jones Jr., the way that he is kind of, remolded himself from being just a highlight reel player to being a real high caliber role player has been amazing. But this Mavericks team is a complete basketball team, and it kind of sucks to me that Luka's probably the most banged up he's ever been, and he's playing with the best team he's ever played with. Like, this team around him, like I've already talked about PJ Washington, Derek. I haven't even talked about Derek Lively. I mean Derrick Jones Jr., but Derek Lively has been exceptional for a rookie. He's been exceptional for a center, period, but especially for a rookie to come in there, be the exact type of center that Luka needs, someone who's going to, block shots, rim run, catch lobs. And we saw last series, the Thunder were trying to put him at the free throw line and he was making his free throws. That's something even veteran players can't do that struggle to shoot free throws. But Derek Lively did it. Daniel Gaffer has been really good for them. Josh Green has been able to give them really good minutes. It's like this Mavericks team is just a really good team. And I think personally, we got the two best teams in the Western Conference. I mean, they've kind of showed it. They've ran through the gauntlet. The Dallas Mavericks handled the Clippers, even though they were without Kawhi for most of that series. They went against the Thunder team, which I get, they're a very young team. But that Thunder team is very talented, and they were the #1 seed for a reason. They were playing some of the best basketball this entire year, and they handled them in 6. And then looking at the Minnesota Timberwolves, it's like they swept. They got the Phoenix Suns up out the paint. They say, y'all done. Y'all need to go reconsider how you build this entire roster this offseason, which is what the Phoenix Suns should do this offseason. Will they do it? Probably not because of the ownership. And then they played the defending champs. And first of all, they won 3 games in Denver, which is a crazy thing to do. And even people who picked the Minnesota Timberwolves in that series did not think they would win 3 games in Denver. And in that game 7, they had the defending champs looking rattled. They shook the defending champs. You should not be able to do what you did to the Denver Nuggets the way the Minnesota Timberwolves did. Anthony Edwards had a poor shooting performance, but it did not matter. That defense was making things extremely hard for Nikola Jokic. I know his stat line at the end of the game is like 37. I think it was like 34, 17, and like 7 assists. But the stat line doesn't show how hard they made the game on Jokic. They had Jokic settling for jump shots, settling for threes. And if you can get Nikola Jokic to settle for threes, phenomenal. There's not too much more I can say about this Timberwolves team other than the fact that this is the best defense we've seen in a long time. And it's crazy to see a team led by a 22-year-old be this good. Like, it's phenomenal to watch. It's fun to watch. And I think we're in for a good series. Now, when it comes to these series and how these two teams match up, I'm going to have to take the Timberwolves in 7 games. And that's mainly because I like how the Timberwolves match up defensively against the Mavericks. And also, I don't think Luka is as healthy as he's letting on. And I think he's a lot more banged up than anybody on the Dallas Mavericks would ever say. And that's really going to come to play because I think the Minnesota Timberwolves have the bodies to throw at Luka that will give a healthy Luka fits. Like, while I do think that Luka could probably have his way with guys like Jaden McDaniels, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and even Anthony Edwards, given I think we kind of underrate how big Luka is and how strong he is and how you can put these long, rangy defenders on him, but he's still going to be able to get to a spot because he can put that shoulder down and boom, boom. Get that turnaround jumper, get that step back 3, put his body into him, be physical. Like, that's a very underrated part of Luka's game is his strength and how he can get to his spot because he's just going to overpower a lot of these guys you try to put on him. But I think he's banged up. And I think they have the bodies. And then also they have the size down low. Luka and Kyrie, while they are excellent jump shooters, they do want to get into the paint. They want to drive. They want to get those easy buckets. But you got Gobert down there. You got Cat. You got Naz Reid. You got a lot of length and size that can make the paint hard to maneuver. And I just think the Timberwolves bigs are better than the Dallas Mavericks bigs. While I love Derek Lively, while I love why am I forgetting his name? Daniel Gafford. Well, I love Daniel Gafford and I love PJ Washington. Those three bigs are not better than the bigs they have across from them. And while I do think the Dallas Mavericks had the edge when it comes to coaching, because while I think Chris Finch is doing an amazing job, Jason Kidd has been here before. Jason Kidd has shown that he can make a good defensive team out of nothing. And I think that's going to be a very underrated side of the series is how the Dallas Mavericks will go about defending the Timberwolves because they've been this amazing plus defense even though they've had Kyrie and Luka who to give them credit, Kyrie is playing the best defense he's ever played, and Luka has been able to sit down in his chair and get stops when need be. And it's going to be interesting how they're going to play, Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns. Like, I think this series is such a big chess match, and it's really a toss-up. While I'm sitting here and I'm going to choose the Timberwolves because I trust their defense against the Mavericks, and personally, I think it comes down to that, how well the Timberwolves will be able to defend the Mavericks and how they're going to make it hard for them to score. They made it hard for the best offensive team in the league to get buckets at times. They're going to be able to slow down the Mavericks just enough for them to edge out the series, in my opinion. But it's still a toss-up because at the end of the day, Luka and Kyrie are on the other side. And while I think the Timberwolves have what it takes to slow it down, that's Luka and Kyrie. They going to be able to get their shots. They going to be able to get buckets when need be. And we know what Kyrie does in big moments like this. Even though we have not seen that vintage Kyrie game yet this postseason, the one where he just dominates offensively, and you see why he is the most skilled person to ever pick up a basketball, in my opinion. Let's just call a spade a spade. Let's keep it a buck. Kyrie is Kyrie. There's been nobody like him. There's been people in his vein, but nobody just as good as Kyrie when it comes to finishing, when it comes to ball handling. That's just how it is. I think personally it's still a coin toss. Like if the Mavericks come out here and win this series in even 6, I wouldn't be surprised. If the Timberwolves win in 6 or 7, I wouldn't be surprised. Like it is such a good series, a good matchup. Two really just complete basketball teams. Like I think we're going to see a lot of games where it's under 100 points. Because the Mavericks are a really good defensive team. We know how good the Timberwolves are defensively. And it's going to come down at the end of the game to who can get the tough buckets. Who's going to make it harder on who to score. And right now, I just trust the Timberwolves more than I trust the Mavericks. And that has nothing to do with, experience and pedigree. Just what they've done. In my opinion, the Timberwolves knocked out the best team in the league in 7 last series. And they did it in a dominant fashion. I know it was a 7-game series, but in every game they won, the Timberwolves dominated. Even that game 7, they were down by 20 at some point. At one point. I think they were down at 20 by one point in the third quarter. The second half, the Minnesota Timberwolves walked them down without Anthony Edwards putting up an Anthony Edwards performance. He only had like 23, 21 points. Now it was allowed 21, 23 points, but it was effective, and Anthony Edwards locked up Jamal Murray in that second half. I know it shows that Jamal Murray had like 34, but in that second half, it felt like I only saw him score a few times in the fourth quarter. Besides that, they were on his. I think we're witnessing one of the more dominant runs we've seen the team go on in recent memory. And I don't think that's being prisoner of the moment. That's just this Minnesota Timberwolves team is much better than we thought they were. Like that. Like I like this Timberwolves team going into the playoffs because of their defense and because of their their size and the fact that it's gonna be hard to score in the paint. But I don't think anybody saw them sweeping the Phoenix Suns. I don't think anybody saw them in a game 7 making the reigning champions, the MVP of this league and the best player in this league rattled. Like they had the Nuggets rattled out there. Like the Nuggets were shook. I don't want to say scared, but they were shook. And I feel like they can do the same thing against these Dallas Mavericks. But at the same time, Dallas is Dallas. Dallas has been here before. Dallas has, well, they may not have championship pedigree. They have a lot of guys that have been in these high pressure situations and that won't be scared. They're not going to, I don't think you can rattle Kyrie. I don't think you can rattle Luka Doncic the way that the Denver Nuggets were getting rattled. But I think it's funny. I was saying before the Denver and Minnesota series, I don't think you're going to be able to get Nikola Jokic rattled, and he looked rattled. He looked tired. So I don't know. I'm gonna go with my gut and pick the Timberwolves in 7, but I think this is a 7-game series. That's personally how I see it. We're in for a 7-game series. We're in for a dog fight. And me personally, this is the NBA Finals. Whoever wins this series, in my opinion, I will favor them against either the Pacers or the Celtics, and not to on the East and not to the Eastern Conference matchup. Because while I think that's going to be a really, really good game, the West is playing different ball, and these two teams are just so good, so battle tested that I feel like whoever wins, I'm gonna favor them by a considerable amount in the finals. So yeah, I think we're in for a great series. Let me know down in the comments below who you think is gonna win. You know, it's really a toss up. I'm not gonna argue with y'all no matter which way you go. I only argue if you say it's gonna be a sweep, if you say it's gonna be a gentleman's sweep, because it's not gonna be that. These teams are too good. They've shown us too much to just sit there and be like, it's a sweep. Hell no. Get out of here. But please remember to like, comment, subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend. And I love y'all.